Parkinson's disease part 3. So we said that Parkinson's disease is a result of dysfunction of the basal ganglia, and in particular the loss or death of dopamine producing cells. And so in order to understand kind of what is going on with the basal ganglia in Parkinson's disease, we need to understand what the normal function of the basal ganglia is. So ultimately, the basal ganglia functions to regulate movements via controls of sequencing, muscle tone, and muscle force. The components of the basal ganglia are the striatum, which is made up of the putamen and the caudate nucleus, and then the globus pallidus internus and externus, the substantia nigra, where dopamine is produced, and the subthalamic nucleus. This picture here is a cross-section of our cerebrum going down into the brainstem where the substantia nigra is. And so I'll show another picture here in a bit to show the complete basal ganglia, but this is if we just sort of were looking at your brain front to back and cut right down the middle. So the basal ganglia communicates with the motor planning areas of the cerebral cortex, and in previous videos we talked about that being the primary motor cortex, the supplementary motor area, and the premotor cortex. And it communicates with this portion of the cerebrum via the thalamus. So you'll notice that big pink section. So this is sort of if we were able to look through the cerebrum and see the innermost portions of the brain. That big circular ball portion of that pink section is the head of the caudate, and then it sort of has this tail that wraps all the way around. So this picture always reminds me, if you've seen Dragon Ball Z, it looks like Super Boo, but that just is a totally different nerdy thing. But the basal ganglia functions through two separate pathways. The first one is the direct pathway, which is meant to facilitate movement, and then the indirect pathway is utilized to suppress movement. And so in the next video I will go over the process of the direct and the indirect pathways.